Hey guys, I'm Aaron with PhoneDog.com. You know what? Vibrant, Captivate, Epic 4G, and finally the Samsung Fascinate with Verizon. It's the last member of the Galaxy S lineup to come to a nationwide carrier. And you know what? Specs-wise, it's basically the same. 1 GHz Hummingbird processor, 5 megapixel camera, Android 2.1 with TouchWiz user interface. But that said, the design's a little bit different, and there's some quirks on this device that the other Galaxy S devices didn't have. So we'll take a look at those in the full review. But it's been an exciting summer for Samsung. They have the Epic 4G, as I said, the Captivate, the, which one? Vibrant. It's hard to think of all four at one time. And the Galaxy Tab lineup coming to carriers later this year. So it's going to be it's been a busy summer, and it's going to be a busy fall and winter for Samsung and the carriers as well, with all these smartphones that are coming out. But we're going to delve into the Samsung Fascinate review, going to give you an idea of the quirks, give you an idea of the build quality differences versus the other Galaxy S devices, and much more. So without further ado, the Samsung Fascinate review, Verizon Wireless, starts right now. Alright, here's the Samsung Fascinate with Verizon, and as I said, it's the fourth Galaxy S device to launch in the nationwide carriers. And in my opinion, when I saw the devices in New York City, it's the most ho-hum, if you will, out of the design. I mean, not to say that's bad, but it's the most regular and kind of boring, if you will, design out of the Galaxy S device lineup. Again, I don't have the Vibrant with me, but if you remember, the back part humps up a little bit. Unique, very much like the GSM version of the Galaxy S. Then you have the Captivate with AT&T, which has the curved edges, kind of similar to a BlackBerry Storm or something of that nature, and a metal battery cover as well. So a little bit of a design difference there. And then you look at the Epic 4G with the full, the physical QWERTY keyboard, a little bit bigger, a little bit heftier, but curved edges up top. This one, pretty basic look to it. And if you didn't catch the unboxing, on the left side, typical volume rocker, right side, power button, and top, micro USB charging port with a convenient charging door, which I love on all the Galaxy S devices. It beats that little thing you pull out and it's attached to a little plastic rod, and usually breaks within 3 to 4 months after owning the device. So that's a nice little addition. And a 3.5mm headphone jack. So very similar on that front. Capacitive touch buttons on the bottom, menu, home, back, and search. And then out of the box, the Fascinate has 2 GB of internal memory. So a nice pro there. So TouchWiz is installed, on top, I can't talk today, on top of Android 2.1, and it's been interesting covering these devices, as I've said before in some of the past reviews, because they're slightly different depending on which one you're looking at. For example, I don't know if the camera does it justice, but you look at the notification bar, you can see it's more of a dark blue color, whereas with the Captivate, for example, it's a little bit of a different color. So, little changes like that and little modifications are present throughout all of the devices. The Epic 4G, for example, houses the standard Android messaging prompt, whereas on this one, it's the iPhone-esque, if you will, bubble text messaging. I was actually getting some NFL mobile notifications on this, and I texted stop, so you can get an idea there, whereas this is stock Android. So, minor differences across the board with the different devices. So let's jump into the menu. You'll notice when we go through applications, you'll see some Verizon standard options. 3G mobile hotspot, Bing, which Verizon's been partnering with as of late, and we'll get into that in a few minutes, but a little interesting on this device. Blockbuster, Car Cradle, City ID, Desk Cradle, scroll through myself here, Mobile IM, My Verizon Mobile, Need for Speed Shift, Skype Mobile, VCast Music, Tones, all the VCast programs, videos, VZ Navigator, and more. So a couple interesting things you'll notice if you've worked with an Android device before, you've worked with any of the Galaxy S devices. 2 things. One, this thing has Bing installed out of the box, and there's no, at least in Android 2.1, there's no option out of the box without any sort of hacks or modifications to change it. You can't go back to Google. Bing is the default search provider, and when you click the search shortcut, capacitive button rather, it takes you directly to Bing. So Bing is pre-installed, and it's kind of frustrating. I echo the comments of other writers and other reviewers when it's okay to have choice. I don't mind having Bing, I don't mind having Google on there together, but give the consumer a choice. This is an Android device. A little bit interesting to have Bing pre-installed with no option for Google whatsoever. So that's one thing that was a frustration. The second thing is, out of the box, Google Maps isn't installed. You'll see one thing that's notoriously missing between Market and Memo. No, I'm sorry, between Kindle and Market. Might help if I relearn my alphabet. Is Maps, Google Maps. It's not installed out of the box. Verizon tries to push, VZ Navigator on consumers with the Fascinate, which is $9.99 monthly. So the question here, Google Maps is free, VZ Navigator is $9.99 monthly. I get it from a business purpose, or from a business standpoint rather, but it's a little frustrating that it's not out of the box. That said, you can jump directly to the market and install Google Maps. So that's one benefit. At least you can get that in the market, install it, and start using it right away. Frustration with Bing is you can't go back to Google as a default search engine. Verizon's mentioned something about when the Fascinate goes to Android 2.2, they've mentioned a little bit about enabling Google as an alternative option, but from everything that I've heard, the default search button down here will always default to Bing. But besides that, pretty standard layout, versus what we've seen on the other Galaxy S devices. A little bit different in terms of the customization options here. You'll notice you have the 7 TouchWiz screens just like you do on the other devices, but for example, they're numbered again, whereas the Epic 4G screens are not numbered, and then you have the option to modify it up there versus going through the menu like you did with the Vibrant and with the Captivate and going that route. So you can click that little icon right there and edit the windows from there, and like the others, you can move around. Let's see if I can get it to go in there. Yep, see, and I can set that as home if I wanted to, but I can move around the screens and get those situated the way that I'd like. So, little option there. Otherwise, menu very similar. So continuing along the trend of what's different in the various Galaxy S devices, let's jump into the phone app. And you'll notice if you watched our videos that the Fascinate, the bottom 3 buttons change depending on which Galaxy S model you're working with. And usually that top right-hand corner button where it says Favorites on the Fascinate changes as well. So let me show you the Epic 4G, for example. And you'll notice when I go into the phone app, different buttons on the bottom. On the Epic, it's call, back, and messaging with contacts in the top right-hand corner, whereas on the Fascinate, it's voicemail, call, and messaging with favorites in the top right-hand corner. Same thing with the Captivate, slightly different position of the buttons as well. So those little differences are present all throughout the device. But one thing that particularly irks me about the Fascinate that I've seen through all the Galaxy S devices, but more so on the Fascinate, the number of spelling mistakes and just general grammatical errors that are present throughout this device. I'm in my contacts list, and I'm on the history tab, and somebody called me by accident today, wrong number, and then these 4635 text messages from NFL Mobile. So let's say I want to go delete those, and I'll hit delete, and first of all, SNS message cannot be deleted, not SMS. So let's that's one there, let's bypass that. And then when I hit select all and hit delete, it's going to say this history will be deleted, call log, comma 2. Continue. So frustrations there, and you see this all throughout the device between the Twitter app and a couple different, or between Twitter and a couple of other places throughout the device. So needless to say, pretty frustrating, and it's one of those things, this device, Verizon's pretty notorious for sending these devices through extensive testing. So you're sitting there thinking, okay, this has been through weeks of testing. How did they miss this? Let's have a look at the browser, and I know you've seen the browser on the Epic 4G and a couple of the others, but let's just have a look at Phone Dog, for example. And again, like the other devices, this sports a 4-inch Super AMOLED display, absolutely gorgeous colors, beautiful screen, and for an AMOLED display, it's surprisingly readable outdoors as well. So that's definitely a nice pro over devices like the Droid Incredible and the Nexus 1. Both of which have AMOLED, did have AMOLED displays, and had some challenges viewing outdoors. So browser looks good, typical browser that you've seen in the Galaxy S devices, the past, the Epic 4G, the Vibrant, Captivate, and you can see devices reasonably snappy. I've had no lag whatsoever. You can see our site loads pretty quickly, and then if I want to zoom in on our videos, for example, let's go back up here, recent in-depth reviews. I can scroll in, scroll out, no lag whatsoever, definitely nice and speedy. And I've shown you this on previous Galaxy S devices, but it's been a big feature for me, and one that I like a lot. And Verizon did a good job with the Task Manager of actually installing an application in the menu. It's accessible on all the Galaxy S devices by pressing and holding the Home capacitive button and then clicking on Task Manager. But on Verizon's front, they include an app, or a shortcut rather, as well through the menu. So you can click on Task Manager. You can see what's active. You can have a look at a couple of other things, summary, package, and then help if you have any issues. It helps you with things like extending battery life. It gives you a couple tips on that front. But it shows you the active applications, how much RAM they're taking, the percentage of CPU they're consuming, and you can opt to end all of those through here. So, versus third-party programs like Advanced Task Killer, the other ones that are available in the Android market. It's nice to see that being supported out of the box, and more so with the Fascinate, by having a standard shortcut button in the menu.